I mean to talk to you today about a development that is about to unfold in the international arena and is likely to dominate the news headlines for quite some time. I talk to you about the impending resumption of the Afghan civil war. Today, 20 years since the invasion of Afghanistan, $2 trillion pumped into the Afghanistan adventure, 100,000 Afghan lives lost and a few thousand American lives lost. The United States, as you know, is pulling out of Afghanistan. And once again, it looks like the Taliban is about to be back in power in Kabul. While it is looking more or less certain that the Taliban will resume its previous rule, as if the previous 20 years did not happen, the Taliban will dominate Afghan politics maybe for some time to come. But what is equally certain is that it will not be able to dominate very peacefully. Afghanistan is almost set to return to a period of another civil war. Why do I say that? I say that largely because the central problem of Afghanistan has been its political centripetalism. That is to say, there has been very few institutional or economic context that you need for the creation of a centralized state. In fact, Afghanistan has been characterized by fragmentation of political authority for quite a long time. There has been no strong central authority in Afghanistan for quite a few centuries. There has been kingdoms in setting up in Afghanistan, but more often Afghanistan has been at the crossroads of the empires. So in the 16th and 17th century, Afghanistan was contested between the Mughals and the Safavids. In the 19th century, Afghanistan was the field on which the great game between the British and the Russians played out. In the 20th century, during the Cold War, Afghanistan was the field of confrontation between Soviets, the occupying force, and the Americans, who were trying to flush them out and funding the resistance in the process. And when such foreign powers have not been around, the Afghan kings have tried to, or the Afghan rulers have tried to consolidate central authority in and around Kabul, and they have almost invariably failed. The principal reason for this is economic. Afghanistan is a resource-poor country. Now, if you look at standard observations or by Western or even Asian observers, political analysts and others, they tend to argue that Afghanistan's tribalism, factionalism, political backwardness, a kind of pre-modern sentiment and sensibilities that holds Afghanistan backward and makes it resistant to centralization and creation of a modern kind of state. That is largely wrong, because ethnic front lines have emerged in a condition of economic resource poor nature of their country. Afghanistan has historically been on the trade routes which have today disappeared. So Afghanistan has little resources to sell, little agriculture. As you know, it's a very dry and barren country. Afghanistan used to flourish on trade. Now that particular overland Asiatic trade route has essentially gone. So there are no resources that would allow Kabul to establish control over the provinces. The economy of Afghanistan is moribund. It does not generate enough economic opportunities for the people it rules over. And in absence of such economic opportunities, it is your tribal affiliation that is likely to give you leverage. So there is nothing essentially tribal in the formation of the Afghan state or in the formation of the Afghan entity. It is more like an economic condition, an economic crisis, an economic malaise that has translated into a kind of social and political fragmentalism, where people continue to go with their primordial tribal loyalties rather than allow for consolidation of political authority. So the Taliban will come to power, perhaps. They would try to project their Islamic values, their very tribal Islamic values, because these Islamic values are different from the Islamic values that you have in most of the other parts of the Muslim world. They would try to establish their Pashtun tribal values as Islamic values, and they would also monopolize all the possibilities of economic opportunity. All the resources would be allocated in such a way that it favors the Pashtun people who support the Taliban predominantly, and that is where the resistance would also be triggered, as Tajiks and Uzbeks and Hazaras, they would fret under Taliban rule, and Afghanistan is almost dead cert on the trajectory of a civil war. Resumption of the civil war is only a matter of time, and historically that has sucked in Afghanistan's neighbors because of the displacement of refugees. The last time Afghanistan had a civil war in the 1990s, there was a huge spillover of Afghan population on both east and west of Pakistan. Iran began to suffer from a major problem of Afghan refugees, and Pakistani society has been totally disfigured as a result of the spillover of Afghan refugees. Pakistani politics, Pakistani society has gone in a direction that was completely unanticipatable in the 1980s. So the repercussions of this are going to be quite great, and one might even say that it would not be limited only to Afghanistan's immediate neighbors. It would have repercussions in Uzbekistan in the north, maybe India further to the east. The region is in for now a period of turmoil. The Americans have pulled out because they had come in because of their own interest. They have pulled out because they have now understood that they can't stabilize Afghanistan. Afghanistan needs something like what the Americans did in Europe after the Second World War, something like a Marshall Plan which would rebuild Afghan economy. Or you might even say build Afghan economy in the way it has never existed. But nobody has that much resources to invest in Afghanistan in a world which is bothered by economic condition, the economic situation in the world being what it is. Not much of such resources would be forthcoming for Afghanistan, and therefore it's a problem. Afghanistan would now fret under political and economic instability for the foreseeable future, and it will have major repercussions in Afghanistan's extended neighborhood.